I can't talk too long. I gotta poo.
I can't talk too long. I gotta poo. I can't talk too long. I gotta poo.
Hello there, boils and ghouls. We have an absolute treat for you today. So, Brian, when we were making our lists of our most anticipated movies of the year, I think we had some pretty similar titles. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, It Chapter 2, Knives Out,
The Irishman.
You know, movies that like a lot of people are actually looking forward to. But honestly, I wish that I had known about John Travolta's The Fanatic while compiling my list.
Right?
Man, if I had known how hilariously god-awful this dumpster fire would be,
a treat.
it would have been at the top of my list.
This was a treat.
So, a little bit of background for those who don't know about this movie. The Fanatic is another passion project for Mr. John Travolta, and we all know how his passion projects turn out. Gotti, Battlefield Earth.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
A masterpiece.
No, the thing about The Fanatic, I think this film fully is the final step in John Travolta's recent career transformation into Nicolas Cage.
I was actually thinking that.
This was a Nicolas Cage performance, like not even the good kind, like Leaving Las Vegas or Adaptation. This is the kind that like you would see in like one of the VOD Nicolas Cage thrillers, like
Bangkok Dangerous, Left Behind, dare I say. I was also getting some
Deadfall.
I was getting some Wicker Man vibes from his performance here. So,
I was too.
So a little bit more background. As we stated, this was a passion project for John Travolta. His career has been on a little bit of a downslope lately. And what he wanted to do with this movie was to prove that he could act in something serious. I mean, he tried to do that with Gotti. It failed. So with The Fanatic, we have a typical stalker thriller in the same vein as films like Misery, 2002 Swim Fan.
Honestly, the one I was getting the most, this was reminding me of most, it's not a movie, but it honestly was the Eminem song Stan.
Oh yeah!
This film is literally Stan.
And funny enough, the music video for Stan starred Devon Sawa,
who stars in this movie. Devon Sawa played Stan in the music video, and he plays the film actor Hunter Dunbar in this movie.
I don't even know where to begin because we do this to ourselves.
Where do we begin with this one?
We do this to ourselves all the time. We intentionally sit down and we subject ourselves to these awful horror movies. We've done it with titles like Troll 2.
We did The Happening.
We did The Happening, but the point is that we get a kick out of awful horror movies because as horror fans, you know, we can get a lot of enjoyment out of them. Whether it's from the bad acting, the bad writing, the bad production values, just as, you know, aspiring filmmakers, we enjoy.
In a sense, you learn what not to do.
You learn what not to do, and you know, it's educational. It's educational, and you laugh every step of the way. So, Brian, before we get into the meat of this story, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So, was this a movie that was so bad that you got enjoyment out of it, or did it just leave you feeling angry?
I definitely enjoyed myself watching this movie.
Same here. This was pretty much everything that I wanted it to be. Because, you know, John Travolta, I mean, the movies that he has made in recent years, they have all been absolute shit.
Yeah, Gotti. There's a reason that film is 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Freaking MoviePass distributed Gotti.
And we all know how MoviePass is doing. If you've been keeping up with current events, MoviePass
just went under.
Is also failing. So, MoviePass and John Travolta go hand in hand.
Like apple pie and Chevrolet.
So, So, The Fanatic. The story is John Travolta plays Moose, a lonely man living in Hollywood.
Who, the way John Travolta plays him in this movie, he is like very, very clearly on the autism spectrum of some kind.
I know you had some comments about that.
Yes, because I will be honest, yes, I have Asperger's syndrome, which, granted, is different. I want to make that clear. It is a different thing. I feel like I don't want to toot my own horn. I'm just simply being honest. I think I'm better socially adjusted than some people. I recognize that for some people it's really a challenge in that regard, and like I have the utmost empathy for that. But like the way they portray him in this movie is like the most offensive, just falls into every possible trap you can possibly fall into when portraying someone on the autism spectrum. Like, he's just full of tics, like constantly talking to himself in the mirror.
Rocking back and forth.
He's dressed in like the most ridiculous ways. He's wearing like a backpack. He looks like a man-child. And also, since the fact that he turns deadly, it very much feeds into the autism people are dangerous myth, which is just disgusting, and those people can rot in hell for saying that. But like, in terms of portrayals of people on the autism spectrum, this film makes extremely loud and incredibly close look dignified in comparison.
I give you a 10 out of 10 for that analysis. Yeah, Hollywood hasn't always been the best at portraying autism in an accurate way because...
I mean, they don't explicitly say it's autism, but like, the way he plays it, you can very clearly tell.
Yeah, so he plays this lonely man living in Los Angeles. He makes a living by dressing up as this British captain who parades the streets.
I thought he was like a street performer on the Hollywood Boulevard, I guess.
Yeah, he's telling people about like locations that obviously don't exist in Hollywood. He's telling them about the London Bridge.
Yeah, in just the most over-the-top Cockney accent possible.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Dunbar. Is Hunter Dunbar here tonight? I need to get an autograph. Don't let him do this to me. I'm a fan. I'm a #1 fan.
The point is that John Travolta's performance is ridiculous. It is batshit insane. I mean,
this is a Nicolas Cage performance.
I mean, given he is fully committed to this character, and you can see that in his mind, I'm sure he's giving a brilliant performance. But if you want to take a good stalker thriller, look at something like 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams. 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams is a very classy movie about this lonely man who becomes obsessed with his family because he has no happiness in his life, and he sees this well-adjusted family, and he wants to become a part of that. But Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo is an actual character.
Or if you wanted to, you could also kind of compare this to Foxcatcher, which came out a few years back with Steve Carell. And granted, that film was, I think, more kind of commenting on like inherited wealth and the messed up shit it makes you do. But that was another one that's very much kind of like this very lonely person trying to place himself in another family's life and basically acting out in violence when they reject him.
So if you get a talented filmmaker behind the camera, you can have a decent portrayal of this kind of character. Unfortunately, the director of this movie is world-renowned musician Fred Durst, who is
the head of Limp Bizkit, the worst band of all time.
Rise up. Feeling manic when the fucking panic starts to kick in. Hit the stage, grab the mic, that's when we get loud.
We're not calling out Limp Bizkit fans. We're just saying that we find Limp Bizkit's music to be rather shitty.
Yeah, not that good. Not that good.
And the best thing that I can say about this movie is that the cinematography is decent because it has an actual professional.
Conrad Hall, who won an Oscar for shooting American Beauty, has shot a number of films with David Fincher, I think.
He also did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, believe it or not.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I was looking at his filmography.
Shit.
But this film is lit well. I mean, there are some decent visuals, there's some good moody lighting. There are several sequences that are at least lit well. Yeah. The problem is in the script, in the performances, and
basically everything else.
Yeah, basically everything else.
You have to be careful. I don't want you to be accused of stalking.
Hey, you can't just come to my private residence looking for me. Listen, pal, I don't know how you found me, but I don't ever want to see you in this neighborhood again.
But yes, John Travolta, his character, whose name is Moose, he is obsessed with this supposedly A-list celebrity.
We couldn't tell if he was supposed to be like A-list or like Z-list. I'm like, and like we're not trying to nitpick here. I don't think.
Right.
It's just the film didn't make it clear.
It really confused me because Devon Sawa's character is supposed to be this big action star. So in my head, I was picturing someone like Tom Cruise,
or like him being in Mission Impossible,
but the names,
or Marvel.
yeah, the names of the movies that he starred in, you get such epic titles as Space Vampires, Ghost Train,
Vampire Killer, I think it was.
These sound like Z-grade horror films, and yet he is highly venerated. He's published a book. He's doing autograph signings inside these, comic book stores.
Again, I feel like it was more just the film needed to at least make it clear, like, what level kind of star he was.
Yeah, it didn't make that clear. But John Travolta's character is obsessed with him to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
Very early on in the movie, we are introduced to him. He goes inside this comic book store,
God.
What is his very first line of dialogue in this movie?
I think it was like, "Give me a second, I have to poo." We're not making this up.
That is how we are introduced to him. He is, pacing back and forth inside his comic book shop, and he tells the employee, "I can't talk right now, I have to poo." Ingenious dialogue. I don't think David Mamet could have written better dialogue.
Quentin Tarantino is frothing at the mouth.
Yes, and this movie even references a couple of Quentin Tarantino movies, and you actually called one.
No, there's one scene where he literally starts reenacting Reservoir Dogs, where he's pouring gasoline on the dude in the climax, and I joked like, "Oh, all we need to do is start singing Stuck in the Middle with You," and then he starts singing it.
Yeah, not to jump too far ahead to the climax, but yeah, he called it seconds beforehand. So anyway,
And I didn't know he was actually going to do that, for the record. I honestly didn't.
So he is practically in love with Hunter Dunbar. He breaks into this hoity-toity Hollywood party with all these big shot actors and producers, but of course, Hunter Dunbar isn't there. He's at his son's elementary school play. So at first we think, okay, so maybe he is actually a pretty decent guy. He sounds like a family man.
No!
But then Moose goes to an autograph signing, and he's really excited to see his hero. There's actually a somewhat clever visual image where Hunter Dunbar is at the table signing autographs.
And there's like a giant spotlight on him.
There's a giant spotlight on him, and we see how Moose perceives him, which I thought was a decent visual.
Wasn't unpredictable, but it served its purpose.
Here's where the shit screenwriting comes in. So Hunter Dunbar's ex-wife is waiting for him in an alleyway inside her car.
Yeah.
He leaves the comic book store to go talk to her. Apparently, they're going to just shut down the rest of the event, even though there's a long line of people still waiting to get Hunter Dunbar's autograph.
Yeah.
And so then John Travolta follows them out to the alleyway where he's talking to his wife and his son.
And he watches their argument.
Which granted is creepy, but Devon Sawa acts like a total asshole in this sequence.
Yeah. He's just like, he's a dick. And then when his wife leaves, he basically outright shuts Moose down. And granted, Moose is being pretty creepy, but the dude is like, in a perfect world, if a celebrity was rude to you like this, when you just wanted their autograph, you would ditch them. You wouldn't want anything to do with them anymore. You would just let it go. You would forget about them. Does Moose do that?
No, he still labels himself as Hunter Dunbar's #1 fan. All Hunter had to do was sign a goddamn autograph, but he doesn't. So, of course, John Travolta tries again. He actually finds the location of his mansion.
And he waits outside his mansion.
Which, by the way, his dumbass 17-year-old friend, she gives him she shows him this app where if you download it, it will show you the locations of celebrity residences. And she tells him, "You better not use this. I just thought it'd be cool if you knew where all these hotshot actors lived. But you better not turn into a stalker now." But of course,
what happened?
She's a dumbass, and he goes to Hunter Dunbar's
Turns
house.
into a stalker.
he turns into a stalker. He climbs over his gate.
Yep.
And in this movie's first horror sequence, he accidentally kills Hunter Dunbar's maid. After Hunter Dunbar kisses them, or tries to kiss the maid, to further establish how much of an asshole he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Moose breaks in, I think, through the backyard. She sees him, and obviously, with how just weird as hell he looks,
Starts beating him with a duster.
and then as he's pushing her away, and then she trips and falls and hits her head on a stone fountain, and this just instantly kills her.
Mm-hmm. And the sequence is supposed to be unnerving and horrific, but it's not, because after accidentally killing her, he's talking to himself, saying ridiculous shit like, "Oh, that's a nosebleed. That's a bad nosebleed. You might want to get that looked at."
And I'm like, the other thing, people on the autism spectrum, a lot of them are really smart.
They are.
A bunch of them are hyper intelligent. The way they portray this dude, he is brain dead. He literally cannot tell if someone is dead.
He's like Denny in The Room, at the end when Tommy Wiseau is dead, Denny rushes in and he's like, "Oh my god, is he dead?" But yeah, so after that scene, Moose snaps, and to be fair, some of the individual moments where Moose is alone inside his apartment and he's beginning to have a mental breakdown, they are shot decently, and I can see in a much better movie this being, atmospheric and creepy.
Yeah.
But because of John Travolta's ludicrous performance, it's not. It's silly, which is not what the filmmakers were going for.
Yeah.
Objectively speaking, this movie is terrible, but the rest of the movie is just so goddamn entertaining because he becomes a full-blown creeper at this point.
His performance just goes full unhinged, and objectively speaking, it's a terrible performance, but he is so committed, I couldn't take my eyes off him.
It was like watching a train wreck. It's terrible and devastating, but you just can't look away.
No.
But he breaks into Hunter Dunbar's mansion again, and in a scene that blatantly rips off 1 Hour Photo, he scrubs his teeth with Hunter Dunbar's toothbrush.
No, his son's toothbrush.
Oh yeah, his son's toothbrush. He, walks around their mansion. He tries on a pair of moose antlers because, haha.
Yeah.
Nice pun.
Moose.
Nice pun there. This was the lead singer of Limp Bizkit.
Yep.
And then, in a scene that totally defies logic, he hides in Hunter Dunbar's.
He
hides in Hunter's closet when he comes home. He waits for him to fall asleep in the living room, and then he sneaks into the living room all quiet while Hunter is asleep. And what does he do?
He takes a selfie with him while kissing Hunter Dunbar's forehead.
And
I am not making this up.
And I was saying out loud, okay, I mean the only thing that'd be more stupid is if he posted it online, on social media. But I thought to myself, there's no way that they're going to do that. But
and guess what he does?
And almost, God, in the most ludicrous way possible, his friend comes over to his apartment, basically berates him for posting this picture on social media, and there are no repercussions whatsoever. In real life, the police would be knocking on his door in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Look, in this day and age, we are absolutely obsessed with celebrities. If Tom Cruise posted a picture of himself wiping his ass with toilet paper, it would be trending on Twitter.
Ted Cruz liked a porn tweet 2 years ago, and Twitter would not let it go for an entire day.
But Moose breaks into this celebrity's mansion, takes a picture of himself kissing him on the forehead, posts it on social media.
Yeah.
No repercussions. No one whatsoever. No one bats a freaking eyelash.
Yeah. And I called it that. I'm like, that idea is so stupid that I'm almost sure that's what's going to happen. So I called it that he was going to post it on social media.
But logic just completely flies out the window at this point, and we get to a climax where, again...
Oh, wait, you forgot the scene with Hunter Dunbar in the car.
Oh, okay, we have to tell you guys, the filmmakers behind this movie are so far up their own asses, because earlier in the movie, John Travolta is talking to his friend, who is a paparazzi. She's taking pictures of the celebrity walking down the sidewalk, and what does she say? She's like, oh, I almost got a picture of Conrad Hall.
Yeah.
The cinematographer of this movie.
Yeah.
And you want to describe the sequence that comes after?
Yes. There's a scene where Hunter Dunbar is driving with his very young son in the car. He turns on the radio, and there's a Limp Bizkit song playing. And like we said before, Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit directed this movie. And Devon Sawa says to his son, this song used to be the shit when I was your age. This was all the rage. And I'm like, first of all, Limp Bizkit is the worst band in the world. Second, and most importantly, wow.
Just, wow.
That is shameless. I'm almost impressed.
That is so self-indulgent. But yeah, it's like the filmmakers thought they were making something brilliant. But really, the screenplay rips off so many of these other stalker thrillers, and it references countless other horror movies. Like, throughout the entire runtime, they make references to Night of the Living Dead.
Well, they show him watching Night of the Living Dead.
They make references to both the original Maniac and the remake with Elijah Wood, and this really made me angry as a horror fan. So Moose is supposed to be, this lover of the horror genre,
Yeah,
he's supposed to have great...
loves all classic horror movies.
He's supposed to have great taste in the classic horror cinema, but in his apartment, you can see in the background, you can see a poster of Texas Chainsaw 3D. Not the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The remake.
No, it's not a remake. It's actually a sequel. It's the 2013 Texas Chainsaw
Sequel to the remake.
with Trey Songz. No. It's actually a sequel to the 1974 original.
Oh.
But it was released in 2013. It stars Trey Songz.
Listen, it was one time. I had like 18 kamikazes. Come on.
And he has a poster of it on his wall in the background.
Do you need to get something off your chest, Josh?
This movie sucks! But anyway, so why don't you go ahead and describe the climax for our viewers, because I need to drink some water.
Alright, I'm trying to remember. I think what happens is there's one point where Hunter Dunbar wakes up, and we zoom out and we see that there's like a cloth in his mouth, and we're like, oh, that's weird. And then we zoom out and we see he is tied to his bed. And then on the floor, we see Moose with what looks like a gunshot wound to his head, and he's in a pool of blood.
That confused me at first.
Yeah, and Hunter Dunbar starts to panic. Oh my God, is this dude dead? And then Moose stands up, and it was clear that, because he references this, that he was pulling a jigsaw from the ending of the first Saw movie.
Tearing my hair out. But
and so it's clear at this point that Moose is trying to just scare Hunter Dunbar shitless so he can hold power over him. And then that's what leads us to him pouring gasoline over him while singing Stuck in the Middle with You, even though it turned... And then he reveals that it's actually water he was pouring on him, not gasoline. He was just trying to scare him. Mm-hmm. And you can tell Moose is just getting like a joy out of this. And this is when John Travolta goes full Nick Cage in this scene. Mm-hmm. Because he's like laughing maniacally and everything. It's so great.
It's just a joy to watch. And who does he dress up as?
He is wearing the same bodysuit as Michael Myers from Halloween.
And he's wearing Jason Voorhees' hockey mask. So
interesting combination.
Cosplayers, get yourselves ready, because John Travolta just invented Jason Myers, the love child of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. But anyway, so in my personal favorite sequence of the movie, Devon Sawa tries to talk John Travolta out of killing him, which is something you should do if a psycho ties you to the bed and is threatening to hurt you. And Hunter Dunbar tells him about a technique that actors use called visualization, where they imagine themselves in the mindset of a character, or they imagine themselves in a situation. And so he asks John Travolta to, imagine something, and then
the filter goes all rose-colored, and you can see that this is sort of what Moose is sort of
it's like something
perceiving.
It's like something out of a bad romantic comedy, because literally the screen turns red. It's like a romantic moment. You can hear like the harp playing in the background at this point. He unties Devon Sawa from the bed, but then Devon Sawa loses his mind
and blows his hand off with a shotgun.
And then he pushes him down the stairs, shoots out his left eyeball.
Oh no, he stabs it.
Or excuse me,
stabs it out.
No, he stabs out his right eyeball. Has oh my god, what have I done moment. He reflects on the situation for a second, and
I'm like, nah, you've been an entire asshole this entire movie. You shot and stabbed a guy. You don't get to have that moment.
See, that's the thing. This is a one-note character. The movie never allows us to sympathize with him in any way whatsoever. Throughout the entire movie, he is an absolute dick, and it would have been, it would have been a clever twist if John Travolta ended up being the protagonist and Devon Sawa.
But he has no dimension either.
But we don't know who to root for.
He's unlikable also. Honestly, this film feels very nihilistic. It feels like I don't know what this film is saying. I don't know what message this film wants me to take away from it. It feels like it's just like, oh, these people are so unpleasant, ha ha ha.
And the ending is just the last few minutes are just one big puzzle, because Devon Sawa...
This made no sense.
Devon Sawa helps an injured Travolta off the floor. He opens the front door for him, lets him walk out. He just stabbed this man's eye out. He blew his fingers off, and he's just showing him the door like, oh, I hope you have a pleasant evening. Thanks for dropping by. The next day, John Travolta is walking down the sidewalk.
And like a few people, and first of all, no one questions a dude who is very clearly profusely bleeding from his eyeball.
Well, I mean, okay, so he has these dudes approach him, and they're all excited because they think it's a performance. They think he's, just putting on an act, but no. But
and I'm like, that made no sense.
His
was
friend,
it trying to say anything? I don't know.
His friend shows up, and she explains through narration, which, by the way, the narration in this movie is just obnoxious. There are several moments where his friend is telling us what is going on in a scene. The director doesn't allow us to experience the scene. They have to have the secondary character explain to us through narration.
Yeah.
And it is so irritating.
Yep.
But through narration, she kind of explains the ending, because she talks about how she's worried about the maid that John Travolta had killed earlier, which, by the way, her body is still in the backyard, as if Hunter Dunbar hadn't noticed it at this point.
And the maid reappeared after like almost 45 minutes of screen time, is the weird thing. It just came out of nowhere.
It was too long. We had almost forgotten about her.
I had forgotten about her at that point.
So she explains through narration that Hunter was arrested. I guess the police blame him for the death of the maid, even though earlier the day excuse me.
You can do this.
Even though on the previous day, John Travolta had posted a picture of himself on social media after breaking into his house. Somehow the police...
He wouldn't be a suspect.
He would be arrested in a matter of minutes. But the police arrest Hunter Dunbar, and that's literally how the movie ends.
Yeah.
It was just one big puzzle. It made absolutely no sense.
It felt like the movie just stopped. It didn't even feel like it ended. It's like it just stopped.
You know what ended? My patience. this is probably the angriest I've ever gotten in one of these videos, but I just have to say, as someone who appreciates the horror genre as an art form, this movie was just a big pile of garbage.
It was an entertaining pile of garbage, though.
It was entertaining, but it just left me feeling so frustrated and angry, and
I wasn't angry at this film. I had a blast with it.
It had this airy attitude where, oh, we are just making something so horrific, so brilliant. A premise like this has never been done before, even though there was a piece of shit movie back in 2002 called Swim Fan, which had a similar premise.
Well, the thing is, I don't even think it's that. This movie's not saying anything. It has no message to it.
So, overall, hands down, probably the worst horror movie that I've seen this year. Not the absolute worst movie, but...
No. I'll have to think about where this would be on my worst list. It's probably top 10, maybe top 5, I don't know. Top 3 is pretty... It would struggle to even crack my top 3, I think.
But at the very least, we did enjoy watching it. Sure, it left me feeling angry, but I did get some enjoyment out of watching it. But guys, thank you so much for joining us in our discussion of The Fanatic. If you get the chance, check this thing out. And then afterwards, do yourself a disservice and listen to a Limp Bizkit album.
See this movie. Honest to God, you will get one of the most entertainingly awful movie performances of the year. John Travolta goes full Nicolas Cage. You have to see it to believe it.
But thank you so much again. If you like this, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Round the Clock Frights. We're looking forward to bringing you more videos soon. We just did a review for It Chapter 2. Me and Brian have talked about it, and even though this isn't a horror movie, we are going to review Cats later in the year.
Now that's going to be the scariest movie of the year.
That movie looks downright frightening.